Las Vegas shooting conspiracies, a compassionate late-night monologue by Jimmy Kimmel, and me trying to make more sense of those than an Amish family shopping for a television.
I got you. Yeah, I will defend my brothers. I will defend the weak. I will pursue and fight evil so others may sleep. I am the sheepdog, protecting the night. Wolf hunters unite. Bring it on. It's time to fight.
Hey guys, Mike the Cop here. We have a lot to get into today in this video. Don't want to waste any time, so let's dive into it. First thing are all of these conspiracy theories that have started floating around about the situation in Las Vegas. A few of those stood out to me. I'll share those tweets that I saw with you and give a quick little answer. First one, how did he get all those weapons into that room by himself without being seen? Thousands of rounds of ammo and hundreds of pounds of guns. Well, you see, when you go to a hotel, there's these things called luggage carts. They are convenient. Sean would like to know. So this psycho-terrorist had an illegal military-grade, fully automatic weapon. How the hell did he get his hands on that? Hashtag gun control. Well, Sean, it wasn't an automatic weapon. Certainly wasn't military grade. So there's the answer to your question. Moving on. Forget about that. That's easy with YouTube. Now tell me, how did he break the 400-pound windows? It's sort of like eating an elephant. One bite at a time. You just hit it one at a time until it breaks with something heavy. You know, like a hammer. And the granddaddy these days, what about the shots coming from the fourth floor? Let me help you a little bit. Vegas has a lot of glass in it, and there's such thing as sound bouncing off of other areas. There's things like light reflecting off of the glass. And so it's already been shown that whatever people were seeing on the fourth floor was already being present during the concert before shots started being fired. So this is common sense, it's science. Listen, with the conspiracy theory stuff, just stop it. I mean, it got so bad, YouTube had to actually change their algorithm to stop these conspiracy theories from hitting the top searches. So you know when YouTube is changing it to where they want a little bit more reliable news source at the top, it's a problem. I mean, who wins in this conspiracy? And I know I'm not going to win conspiracy theorists over. I'm just pointing out the obvious answers to these questions. Moving on. For now, conspiracy theorists, just make sure that you cinch those tinfoil hats down real good. Don't let anybody get in. Last week, Jimmy Kimmel gave an impassioned monologue, no doubt about it, in response to the Las Vegas shooting. It was insanely viral, at least on YouTube from what I paid attention to. It was mentioned on all kinds of news outlets. The CNN called it, somebody titled an article about how Jimmy Kimmel became America's conscience. And while I don't think that Jimmy Kimmel thinks for me or a lot of people, I will absolutely give him the credit that he came out and, like I was asking in my first video last week, can we just have compassion basically be the first response to these tragedies, not the politicization? So at the beginning of this monologue, I was really tracking with him and in complete agreement. And I do not doubt Jimmy Kimmel's sincerity 1 ounce. I find him to be someone who over the years has been someone who's made me laugh, and I respect him as a creator of content, even where I've disagreed with him or think that some of the things that he's done are not funny or are inappropriate or whatever. That's neither here nor there. I don't have any doubt that Jimmy Kimmel sincerely believes what he was saying, and it's not the compassion that I take issue with. In fact, that's the best part. That's where I think we need to focus. It's where he takes that compassion and he places the energy in the wrong direction, in my opinion. And this week has just been a deluge of hashtag gun control, because I think, as I mentioned in my video last week, it's evil. There's evil at work in the heart of man. The proclivity for evil in society is great, and we want to be able to get our hands on something, to pin it down, to legislate it, to control it, to blame it, so that we feel like we've accomplished something. And that's difficult to do with evil as a concept. And so we guide our compassion in certain areas. Some people are guiding it toward, all gun control all the time. Some people are taking it to the other extreme and saying all anti-gun control all the time. We need to focus back in on the compassion part, but this has been such a huge response that I think I feel obligated, based on the kind of content that I create, to have a response to what he's saying, what he's asserting in here. Let's check out the opening to the monologue.
There's probably no way to ever know why a human being would do something like this to other human beings who are at a concert, having fun and listening to music. Jason Aldean was on stage. Luke Combs, who was here with us tonight, he played the show too, and obviously no one could have ever expected that something terrible would happen, but it did. A very sick person smuggled 17 guns into his hotel room and smashed out the windows, started firing indiscriminately from the 32nd floor into a crowd of 22,000 people across the street. And as a result of that, this morning, we have children without parents and fathers without sons, mothers without daughters. We lost 2 police officers. We lost a nurse from Tennessee, a special ed teacher from a local school here in Manhattan Beach. And it's a kind of thing that it makes you want to throw up or give up. It's too much to even process.
Clearly, he is moved. He is compassionate about this incident. He has empathy for everyone involved. He's certainly not anti-cop by any stretch of the imagination. He genuinely comes across as brokenhearted for these victims, and we all should. We should all have that kind of compassion for our fellow man, no matter what. It's a tragedy that anyone and their life would be ended in this way, by any type of violence at all, gun violence or otherwise. And we should have that kind of compassion, because that is what will stir us to action. But I have to ask, why do we only bring this kind of compassion to the table in incidents like this that get the attention? Again, I think this is a watershed moment. People are going to look back and remember where they were and what was going on during this time, because it's one of those things that has a cultural effect. But what about in September alone in Chicago? 57 people victims of homicide. 57. Almost 2 people a day are being killed in Chicago. We haven't talked about Detroit, St. Louis, Los Angeles, any other major urban city. We haven't talked about any of those homicide numbers. We start piling this up, we have problems with violence, certainly, that we need to address. Why now? Why with this are we focusing on gun control? Well, because it's an easy way to leverage it. So if you already have that agenda, then now you can use this as a way to leverage it to further that agenda. And that's where I think I diverge with Kimmel, because he starts out with the compassion, but then quickly diverts it into, essentially, if you don't agree with me, you have to be wrong. You can't be as compassionate as me unless you agree with me on gun control. And that's where he takes a turn, and I think it's a little disingenuous to use that as a means to shame people into agreeing with you. Couple of quick facts about guns and mass shootings. First of all, the research indicates that even though gun ownership has gone up, homicide rates from guns have gone down. That is not me saying that I feel at all that any victim is less valuable at all. Our hearts should break for all people who have been killed unjustly. But the numbers, the facts do not lie. Gun ownership is high. Crime involving guns is going down. That is the fact of the matter when it comes to gun control. Oh, Mike, how can you say that? We have so many mass shootings. I had someone reach out to me on Instagram and ask me how I feel about the 200 and some odd mass shootings we've had this year. And I was mind blown at what are you talking about, 200 mass shootings? So I started looking into where people would pull these kind of numbers out of their rear ends, and I see a source, Vox, gives some numbers from 2015. So I'm going to put that up on the screen. Not a single month in 2015 was free from mass shooting. Overall, 468 died from 372 mass shootings in 2015. This is nonsense. There were not 372 mass shootings in 2015. There simply were not. If you use the definition of 3 or more people being killed indiscriminately, terrorized and killed indiscriminately, which would be what a mass shooting would be, we're not talking about gang violence in which there might be a drive-by shooting and multiple deaths occur. We're not talking about murder-suicides in a domestic situation. What Vox is counting there in those numbers is beyond me, but it is certainly not what would be applicable to a genuine, indiscriminate, terrorizing mass shooting. It's just simply not true. If we use the real definition of mass shooting, it comes out to 6 in 2015. Not 372, 6. 6 too many. 6 that should never happen, but not 372, 6. And mass shootings are not a commonplace thing. We may have more coverage of it. We may have more 24/7 nonstop dealing with mass shootings after the fact, but we do not have an ongoing, increasing mass shooting problem that gun control is going to stop. That's the facts. Check out this next little clip from Kimmel, and we'll tie it all together.
Second Amendment, I guess, our forefathers wanted us to have AK-47s, is the argument, I assume. Orlando, Newtown, Aurora, San Bernardino, every one of these shootings, the murder used automatic or semi-automatic rifles, which are not weapons you use for self-defense. They're weapons designed to kill large numbers of people in the shortest possible amount of time. And this guy reportedly had 10 of them in his room, apparently legally. At least some of them were there legally.
Actually, yes, they are used for self-defense. You can't tell me why I have a firearm and what purpose I may use it for. That doesn't make any sense. With the Founding Fathers, in the reference to AK-47, even a cursory look at the Founding Fathers is going to show you that that's exactly what they would want us to have. They would want citizens, law-abiding citizens, to be armed. That's their right by the Second Amendment. This is a foundational right to what? Protect us from bad guys, to protect us from the potential of a tyrannical government doing to us what had been done to us in leading to the Revolutionary War. Listen to this quote from Thomas Jefferson. In the Commonplace book, he's quoting a criminologist here when he says this. The laws that forbid the carrying of arms, they disarm only those who are neither inclined nor determined to commit crimes. Such laws make things worse for the assaulted and better for the assailants. They serve rather to encourage than to prevent homicides, for an unarmed man may be attacked with greater confidence than an armed man. We're just not going to take the same argument that he's making. It doesn't make any sense to tease that out. The facts about the Founding Fathers contradict what he said, and if we were to apply that to all amendments, we would end up with complete nonsense. Take the First Amendment, the right to free speech, okay? If we did that and said, well, the Founding Fathers wouldn't want us to have free speech on the internet just because they had never heard of the internet, how many people would agree with that? In wrapping this up, my call is to push us to common sense. And I think the greatest starting point will absolutely be compassion. That much I agree. That's a great way for us to be able to come together. And if we can agree that we should be broken over these incidents, that we should be broken over the fact that there is evil in the world, then we can talk from there about what the solutions are. But if we already bring that to the table and we let that cloud what effect that compassion can have, we miss the mark. Compassion doesn't equal being right. Compassion needs to be directed toward common sense and the truth. It needs to be an appeal to the truth if it's going to have any effect. Right now, it's so easy when we feel a collective need to lay blame, to blame guns instead of those who would have such a proclivity to use them in a terrorizing way. What about 2016 in France? 86 killed in Nice with a cargo hauler, 400 and some odd people injured, not a single shot fired. Oklahoma City bombing, 168 killed, another 600 plus injured, not a single shot fired. So what do I propose as a solution? I don't pretend to have all the answers, but I would say that if we can start at that compassion point, if we can agree there, and more of us can begin to act like those who ran toward danger than away from it, then we can begin to make a difference together. Not just law enforcement, but even just the common person there for a concert who turned into a hero by putting their fellow man and their needs and their situation ahead of themselves. If each of us were putting our neighbor, our fellow man in front of ourselves, then we could begin to make progress. The only way to combat evil character is to build good character into ourselves and into our kids, into our friends and neighbors, to cultivate an environment of building good character based on compassion that pushes us to the truth, because the two are not synonymous. And I wish Jimmy Kimmel and anybody who identifies, with that ideology, I wish them nothing but the best, but I want to be able to come together and focus on what is real, not what is perceived as the fix. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching. Make sure you subscribe and hit the notification button for my channel. If you want to find me off of YouTube, you can always add me on Snapchat, follow me on Instagram or Twitter, like my Facebook page, and if you really like me, you can also check out my store or my Patreon page.